Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live session of the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute. That's PBBI from California State University, Fresno. Welcome to all of you who are joining us here locally throughout Central California, those of you who are joining us at other parts of the state, and from other parts of the country and the world as well. Welcome to this live Facebook session. At the same time, this session will also be archived through our PBBI Fresno State, that's the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, through our Facebook page, obviously, through PBBI, but also on our YouTube channel as well. We're going to talk to you a little bit more about two of our platforms that we occasionally visit about every 6 to 7 weeks or so. So we try to visit them about 8 times a year, 7 to 8 times a year. And it is Novidades and of course, also FILAMENTOS. So let me share these with you, and hopefully you'll be able to see them. I think you are able to see them now, and talk to you a little bit about what these platforms are and how they can serve our Portuguese American community throughout, of course, not only here locally in the Central Valley of California, but also in the Central Coast, also in Northern and Southern California, also in other states of the Union. We have lots of friends who follow both of these platforms, especially this one, Novidades, the islands and the diaspora in Hawaii and in other states of the Union as well, all the way from the East Coast, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut, etc., to the southern areas of Florida and even coming out west here, folks following us in Idaho, in Arizona, and Texas. So we're excited about that. And it is a service of PBBI. That's the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute from California State University, Fresno. This platform is called Novidades, the Islands and the Diaspora. It is put forth by Bruma Publications. So a bit of a context. PBBI has been in existence. It was inaugurated in basically in 2019. So we just commemorated a few months ago our 5th anniversary, and we are fastly approaching our 6th one as we now commemorate our anniversary for the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute during the month of March, during a Portuguese Immigrant Week in California. Because the Institute began in the mid part of February, and a lot of our work began, of course, in February with our inaugural lecture and everything else, and all of the events that we had. But a lot of our ongoing work began in March, so it makes sense that we tie it to the Portuguese Immigrant Week in California, which is always the first full week of March. And we, of course, are coming upon that pretty soon, here in about 6 months, or actually a little bit less. And so the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute has several missions, and our main mission, of course, is to record the oral history of the Portuguese American presence in Central California. We have over 100 recordings done. We have almost 70 of them archived at our library at Fresno State. And we, of course, continue to do those. We try to do anywhere between 15 to 20 every semester. So we're talking about 30 plus every single year that we try to do. We're not always successful to reach 30, but we try to do anywhere between 20 to 30 at least. And right now, with over 100 recordings, we are obviously in the largest Portuguese oral history program, with over 70 now archived. We are the largest Portuguese oral history program at any university in the West Coast of the United States, and we're very, very happy to be able to do that for our community. To archive these stories that later on can be accessed. It can be accessed right now. If you go to our library, we'll have actually a session on that here very soon in about 3 weeks. But besides the oral history, we also have a lecture series program with most of them online, but a few of them in person. We try to have 2 to 3 events in person per semester, a total of about 5 to 6 per year. And online, we usually have another 10 or so per semester. So we have a very, very active speaker and conference series that we put forth at PBBI Fresno State, most of it online. And the reason being because we can also reach our students that way. They have busy lives, so they can watch it whenever it's convenient for them. If they can't do it on the live sessions, we always record them. And also, our faculty and staff can have access to them when it's convenient for them as well. We have, as all of you know, a full program of Portuguese at Fresno State. This semester, we have around 60 students who are taking our courses. But besides that, we have lots of faculty and staff that are Portuguese background that are always looking to get more information about the Portuguese American community. It is available to the entire community as well. And so some of these events that we have online, if we had them in person, we'd be lucky to have 60 or 70 people in attendance because of people's busy lives. We normally have on live streaming usually hundreds, and then folks can access them as well through our YouTube channel as well as that. And we will be talking about those later on as we visit all of the different projects that we do at PBBI Fresno State. And so in 2021, at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, we began this process of creating a publishing house as part of PBBI at Fresno State. We call it Bruma Publications. Our first book was published 2 years ago in 2022. We'll be talking about that shortly as well in another session. But about a little over a year ago, actually end of July, beginning of August of 2023, we had many contact with many different folks because of our lecture series being lots of it online. We get lots of comments and we appreciate them, lots of emails. We appreciate them as well. We try to answer all of them. And many folks called upon us to do a little bit more about the Azores, especially those who were born in the United States, and it may have been their parents or their grandparents or their great-grandparents that came from the Azores. Many, especially if it was their grandparents that came from the Azores, don't speak Portuguese or know a little bit, but not enough to know what's going on to read a journalistic piece. And so we took upon ourselves through the modern and classical languages and literature department, that is MCLL. It's easier to say it that way, MCLL from Fresno State, from the College of Arts and Humanities that PBBI is part of. We're part of 3 colleges. And so we tried to put forth this platform, see how it would work. The response has been phenomenal. We thank all of you for being a part of this. And so basically, you just go to novidadesnewsletter.news. Here it is up here. And so you can save that in your browser, or if you don't, you can use Google. Just Google Novidades Newsletter, and it will take you to that. It's novidadesnewsletter.news, as you can see it up here. And then the title, of course, is Novidades, the Islands and the Diaspora, by Bruma Publications from PBBI Fresno State, because we do have an ongoing publication series. We have published a total of 14 books in the last 2 years. But we also want to do something on an ongoing basis, more in the electronic world that you can access through your phone, your iPad, your computer at work or at home. Lots of people using electronics more than they are reading physical books. Fortunately or unfortunately, depends on, of course, your point of view. And we wanted to have more of a journalistic aspect of what was going on in the Azores. We also run at least two stories per week from Madeira Islands as well. We run some from our diaspora as well. And we're going to be putting here on Novidades, the Islands and the Diaspora, also essays on our oral history program. So folks can read about these folks that we have interviewed in the past. And we have done some of that. We're going to be doing that a little bit more actively, about one every week or so for the next 12 weeks that is remaining here in our calendar for this semester, and try to do the same thing next semester as well. So If you go to NOVIDADES, newsletter.news, you'll be able to see some stories here. For example, these top two were put forth today. One of them, this very long one, I'll already call your attention out to that. It's called "The Current Azorian Government is Spending 480,000 euros daily on debt." It is the opinion of Francisco César, who is the leader of the PS, the largest opposition party. This was done by Correio dos Açores. All of our news items are done by reputable news services in the Azores. So newspapers who are widely known: Correio dos Açores, Açoriano Oriental, Diário dos Açores, those three from the island of São Miguel. We also get them from Diário Insular in Angra do Heroísmo, Tribuna das Ilhas in the island of Faial. We get them also from Rádio Ilhéu in São Jorge, from some of the other newspapers that are published, Ilha Maior in Pico, and also from other areas as well, Baluarte from Santa Maria. So lots of these different publications that allow us to translate some of their stories to Portuguese and to put forth here on Novidades. As you can see, this one has actually a note that alerting folks that it's a long interview, but we encourage people to read it because our major work here is to bring you the Azores today as it is, without any filters. So there's no opinion here as far as our opinion is concerned. There may be opinion pieces, and we have those as well as we have hard news from the different media outlets, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So this is a very long interview that the Correio dos Açores did to Francisco César, who is the leader of the opposition party, the PS party in the Azores. And if you take time to read it, this is a long read. This is probably about a 12-minute read or so, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it tells us here on our system. It's about a 12 to 15-minute read. But it's well worth it to know what are some of the dilemmas in the Azores, how the different political parties look at them, and how these affects, of course, the lives of people in the Azores as well. And so we try to have, of course, very different stories, and I'm going to go back to them here. You'll see that we have here, going back here to Novidad, there's the islands and the diaspora. You'll see that we have other stories, a little bit more. For example, here is an interview about SATA and whether it should be privatized or not. This is again from a young reporter, very, very smart young reporter who lives in the island of Santa Maria. Again, the island of Santa Maria here with space company to tests and the launching of two rockets, atmospheric rockets in Santa Maria Island. Talking a little bit about restaurants in the Azores. We try to feature those when they have interviews with these different news sources. A little bit about almost 600 homes sold in the Azores between April and June of 2024. So lots of news from SATA again, and a bit of opinion too. So, for example, one of our regular contributors is Alexandre Manj, who is from living now in the island of Terceira, originally from the island of Flores. And we run some of her op-ed pieces translated to English. We also run some op-ed pieces from the different editors of the different newspapers. So, for example, here is an excellent op-ed piece also from Américo Natalino Viveiros, who used to be a member of the government of the Azores and who now is the editor-in-chief for the newspaper Correio dos Açores and Atlântico, or newspapers, and Atlântico Expresso. And then most of them are news items that we believe are important. All the news, of course, is important, but we cannot publish, and we don't have the manpower or the time to publish every single story that comes out in the press in the Azores every single day. Literally, there are dozens and dozens. And so we try to take one or two, sometimes three, depending on our time frame, and translate those and things that kind of give those here in America and throughout North America, United States and Canada, and even in other parts of the English-speaking world who have ties to the Azores or want to know more about the Azores, a bit of the reality of the Azores, a bit of what's going on, of some of the challenges, opportunities as well, but challenges, everyday dilemmas, a little bit of politics because it affects people's daily lives, some human interest stories. And so a little bit like, for example, this one here, the Azores could be more exposed to the new hurricane season. This one here, preserving Santa Maria's wine growing heritage. And so a lot of different stories that can I believe give those who are interested in the Azores, especially those who are of Azorian heritage, and our second, third, fourth, fifth generation Americans, Canadians, Australians, etc., who would like to know a little bit more about where their roots are, where their families came from, who want to, although be Americans and be Canadians and be Australians and be South Africans, etc., but want to have a little bit of knowledge about what's going on in the Azores on a daily basis, or maybe just look at it once every 2 or 3 days and look at some of the stories and see which one interests you. That is why we do what we do with the Novidades newsletter.news. We are really, really happy. Every day, our stories have hundreds of people that read them, and we appreciate that. It's a free service. There is never going to be a charge as long as I'm with PBBI at Fresno State. And it's obviously a community outreach program. And at the same time, it's a very good service for our students. We always think of our students first at Fresno State, because we have an Azores culture class, literature, culture, history, and we want them to have opportunity to read some fine literature as they're doing, and learn about the history of the Azores. But by the same token, we also want them to have access to the Azores, and even our language classes, beginning language level classes, where they can learn a little bit more about the Azores on their own, by consulting Novidades newsletter.news, but at the same time, it's for the entire community, independently of where you live in the United States, in Canada, in any English-speaking country. And so we have, again, most of our stories, our news stories, but we are trying to do at least twice a week, and sometimes 3 times a week, different perspectives from different folks, from folks on the right, on the center, on the left, from folks with no political affiliation in the Azores that are regular contributing writers to some newspapers, and who have different opinions and different outtakes and different perspectives on the issues that affect the archipelago. For example, one of them is this Aníbal Pires, this this title Cycles. Aníbal has been writing for Azori newspapers for quite a few years. He is a poet. He is a retired professor, teacher, and he has also retired from politics. He was a member of the parliament from the PC party, from the CDU, and he now is retired from politics and retired from the school that he worked for, but continues to, of course, write his poetry and continues to collaborate and be a very active member of the Azorian society. Another one here, another op-ed piece is called A Needed Dialogue by João Bosco Mota Amaral. And those who have some connection to the Azores, the name Mota Amaral is not a strange name. He was the president of the government of the Azores for the first, I believe, 18 years of or almost 20 years, actually, of the democracy in Portugal. Like I said, a little over 18 years. And so in the Azores, he was the president of the government. And so his opinions are also very, very interesting from a different political perspective that Aníbal is from. But they are all important for those who want to know the various aspects of the Azores, because the Azorians have different political leniencies. They have different challenges from island to island, even sometimes from municipality to municipality. They have dreams, they have challenges, they have opportunities, like all of us throughout the world. And so that is what we try to do with the Novidades. Here it is again. It's called Novidades newsletter.news. As you can see, for example, We have some days, like on the 23rd, where we had actually three different stories. On the 22nd, so we had two different stories. On the 21st, we had two. On the 20th, we had three. Many days we have at least one, but some days we do have two or three. Some days we have there has been a few exceptions, but once in a while we will have four stories in one day. And there have been some exceptions where we have not had a story in a day or two, but we try to do it on a daily basis. So if you're interested in finding out what's going on with the Azores, sometimes we always say that we're very proud of the Azorean identity that shapes our various identities that we have in the United States, because more and more folks are, of course, of mixed identities, of mixed cultures. And many people have three or four different cultures within their families. But I hear all the time folks being very, very proud of their Azorean identity, those who are second and third and fourth and even fifth generation, but sometimes don't know anything about the Azores or some of the realities that are going on. Even those who are immigrants from the Azores and came at a young age, as myself, I came at the age of 10. But some who came at the age of 2 or 3, and some who came at 12 or 13 and have been here 45, 50 years. The Azores are not the same they were 45 or 50 years ago. And what we try to do in Novidades, the islands and the diaspora, is bring the Azores to the diaspora, is have a continuous dialogue between the diaspora and the Azores, and to think about the Azores as a place not just to go on vacation. That's important, but not just to go on vacation and have some good food and some good wine and have some good time at some good parties, but a place that has challenges, that still continues to be, unfortunately, the poorest region in Portugal, that has a dropout rate of over 22% of high schoolers who don't finish high school, that has challenges because there's small islands, and some of the small islands with only 3,000-4,000 people, it's hard to have enough teachers that want to go there and teach, and medical staff and everything else. And so to think about these things and to think about ways that we now in the diaspora, especially when we talk about first generation born here and second and third, who are in various positions of power, in everything from the arts to education to technology to agriculture, to commerce, to industry, how we that are proud of our ancestry can also contribute to the Azores besides the party atmosphere. I think if we're proud of our Azorean heritage, excuse me, and I think that more and more people are, and that is phenomenal, that is great, then I think we do owe it to the region where our parents, our grandparents, or our great-grandparents came from, to be a bit more active and to, in our own way, contribute, a little frog in my mouth, contribute to the Azores of today. The Azores of today, as the Azores of 200 years ago, the islands have always had an interesting connection with the outside world, as we're just talking about that in our Azores culture class at California State University, Fresno. And where I'm very proud of all the students, a group of 32 excellent students. The biggest majority not of Portuguese background. Of the 32, there's only about maybe 12 or 13 who are of Azorean background. The rest of them are not, but very, very interested in the Azores. And we have always been a culture that has been in contact with other cultures, that has been giving and at the same time absorbing. And that's what makes the Azores a unique place. But there's a lot of different challenges. And we try to bring them here to you in Novidades, the islands and the diaspora, in the hopes that maybe we can all come together. The diaspora that is basically at least 4 times larger than the population that lives in the Azores. If we have around 250,000 people in the Azores, there are over 1 million people in the United States and Canada who are of Azorean descent. There are more that are Portuguese descent from mainland Portugal and Madeira. but from the Azores, there's at least 1 million. So we're talking about at least 4 times, not counting those folks who live in other parts of English-speaking countries throughout the world. So that is why we do what we do with Novidades, the islands, and the diaspora. We invite you to you can subscribe to it. At the end of a story, there's always a place at the bottom that you can subscribe and get it in your inbox free of charge. And we are here for that reason. Another one of our platforms is called Filamentos, Artes e Letras, or Arts and Letters in the Azorean Diaspora. And we, again, try to focus on the Azores, and we also do have stories from Madeira and a few stories from mainland as well. Anything that has to do, obviously, with culture, we try to bring it, but we try to focus a lot on the Azores, but not just the Azores. And here we actually have some different segments. So, for example, you can see here that this one is mostly in English, and I should go back just to Novidades just to tell you that Novidades is all in English. So it's news and op-ed pieces and information from the Azores translated to English, all in English. But Filamentos, Artes e Letras na Diáspora Açoriana, or Arts and Letters in the Azorean Diaspora, is basically bilingual, not completely. It is a bit more English-centric. So I would say that about 70% of our stories are translated to English, and we have about 25 to 30 that are not, that we run them in the Portuguese language, especially essays that are written in Portuguese. We try to run those in Portuguese, but others we do also have in English. So it's a 70-30%. If you see something that's in Portuguese and you understand it, obviously just skip it and go to something else. But most of them, as you can see right here, there's one in Portuguese, Olhos nos Livros, but the others, Ácido, a new book by Portuguese writer Luís Filipe Sarmento, is in English. One here by Rui Rezendes from Santa Maria Islands in English. This one here is in Portuguese. This one here about Francisco Lacerda is in English. The Conference of the Luso-American Education Foundation coming up, which we're going to be doing a live session about it very soon, is also in English. About the Viola dos Dois Corações, the Two Hearts, is also in English. So as you can see right here in these basically 9 stories, we have 3 in Portuguese and 6 in English. So pretty much 6 or 7 in English. So pretty much about that 70-30% that I spoke to you. And so this one is focused on the arts and the letters. This is focused on books. This is focused on poetry. This is focused on musicians, on painters, the role of arts in the Azores, and a bit in the diaspora as well. We do have some weekly segments, usually about every week, 9 to 10 days. We run a segment on the Carnation Revolution. We'll continue this until actually December, because this is the year that we're commemorating the 50 years of the Carnation Revolution, Revolução do 25 de Abril, April 25th, that brought democracy to Portugal. And we'll also continue until the end of the year to run this segment called Journey of Words, dedicated to the Azorean poet, born in the Azores, raised in mainland Portugal and lived most of her life there. A wonderful Portuguese voice, a most important Portuguese poetic voice of the 20th century, not just in Portugal, but throughout Europe, Natalia Correia. We are also running a segment written by our good friend Commander Jorge Betancourt in Portuguese, called Aos 100 Anos, which is wonderful pieces of writing about his father. He would have been 100 had he been alive now. And one on Camões, as all of you know, or some of you might not. It's okay. Many people in the Portuguese American community, not throughout the world, do not know that we are commemorating the 500th anniversary, the 500th birthday of Luís Vaz de Camões, which is Portugal's greatest poet. And what we try to do with this segment right here, Camões, 500 years, is bring to you every 9 to 10 days a poem by Luís Vaz de Camões from the Lusíadas, or from some of his sonnets, translated into English as well. We also have this segment by José Andrade, who is now the current regional director for the Azorean communities for the Azorean government. And he has written about the Portuguese or the Azorean diaspora in different parts of the world. It's called The 10th Island, and we take one of his essays as well, short essays, and we translate them also into English and run it as a weekly segment. So as you can see, there are basically 4 to 5 weekly segments that we are putting forth right now, and we'll be putting forth Natalia Correia, and the Carnation Revolution segment will end at the end of this year. The 100 Anos by Commander Jorge Betancourt will also end in the next few weeks or so, and Camões will continue to commemorate him in 2025, and the 10th Island segment will also continue in 2025. We'll probably start some new segments as well. So it's Filamentos, Artes e Letras na Diáspora Açoriana. Again, 70% in English, 30% in Portuguese. If you're interested in books, if you're interested in arts, if you're interested in music, if you're interested in what is going on artistically in the Azorean world and the Azorean diaspora, then check us out. We try to have one every day. Some days we might have 2. Some days we might even be overzealous and have 3, but we try to usually have 1 per day, and some days we don't. Our goal is actually to have 5 to 7 per week. We've been doing that and more, but this is basically there's no need to put something out there if we feel it's not interesting to our community, it's not interesting to those who are interested in the world of the arts and the world of letters, the world of literature in the Azorean world as well. And as always, it's called Filamentos Artes e Letras .art. So just basically Filamentos, Filamentos, as you see they all together, Filamentos Artes e Letras. If you Google it, it'll take you to the site as well. And again, you can also subscribe to this one free of charge. And every time we put something on there, you'll get information on your inbox. Check it out. If it's something that you're interested in reading, do so. If not, obviously, the little click and you can delete it. So thank you all very, very much for joining us. I'm truly appreciative of your time for being with PBBI and these 2 platforms from Bruma Publications, from the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute at California State University, Fresno. We have lots of events this semester. They've started, and the online ones have begun as well. And so be in tune with us, as we will have many, many events in the next few weeks between now and our last event, actually online, will be on December 4th. And then, of course, we will continue with 1 or 2 events right before the holidays. But people are busy at the holiday time, and so we'll come back again like the first end of the first week of January as well. That is, both of these services, again, are free of charge. They're part of PBBI from California State University, Fresno, an institute that is a bit over 5 years old, and trying to do all we can to register our stories, to create our narratives. On behalf of PBBI, from California State University, Fresno, we thank you so much for joining us. Have a most magnificent afternoon for those of you here in the West Coast. For those of you already in the East Coast, evening time, and for those of you in other parts of the world, it may be it may be good night. So to one and all, thank you so much. Take care, everyone.